Hello there, and welcome to What If? The Universe. A quiet place in the cosmos where your thoughts can unwind and knowledge becomes a soft lullaby for the night. Tonight's journey will take us through a strange and beautiful question that has haunted dreamers and scientists alike. What if the multiverse wasn't just a theory? What if the lives we didn't live are still unfolding somewhere, just a breath away from our own? But before you settle in and get cozy, I'd love if you could take a moment to like this video and subscribe, only if you truly find these quiet explorations enjoyable. And when you're ready, leave a comment to let me know where in the world you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. It's always such a joy to see all the places we gather from, each in our own little slice of time. Now, feel free to dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for a soft background hum, and let's gently begin our journey into the mysteries of parallel worlds together. And if your mind begins to wander, that's perfectly fine. Let it drift. We'll still be here, quietly unfolding the story. Let's start not with equations or hypotheses, but with something smaller, something familiar. You're standing in a grocery store aisle. In your left hand is a box of cinnamon cereal. In your right, something chocolatey and indulgent. You hesitate. You imagine the taste, the crunch, maybe the quiet satisfaction. And then, without much fanfare, you choose. One box goes back on the shelf. The other rides in your cart. You move on. It seems like nothing, a choice so small it dissolves into the background hum of your day. But now imagine, just for a moment, that the other version of you, the one who chose differently, didn't disappear. That somewhere, somehow, another reality unfolded. One where the chocolate cereal made it home, and your morning tomorrow will taste ever so slightly sweeter. It's a small difference, a tiny ripple. But multiply this across every decision, every fork in every road, every missed train, every unread message, every door you walked through or didn't. And suddenly, it's not just one life that branches, it's an entire forest of possibilities. This, in a whisper, is the multiverse. The idea that the universe we see, vast as it is, may be just one of countless others, all part of a much larger and stranger reality we can barely begin to glimpse. It's not an easy idea to hold in your mind, especially late at night. Our brains are built for a world of solid ground and simple cause and effect. A world where the sun rises in the east and your socks stay in the drawer you put them in. But even that simple world, as quantum physics reminds us, is more slippery than it seems. Particles don't always behave. Light is sometimes a wave, sometimes not. And at the smallest scales, certainty gives way to probabilities, like a coin forever spinning in the air. The multiverse asks, what if instead of picking heads or tails, the universe just says yes to both? In one version of reality, you turn off this video right now and go to sleep early. In another, you stay up just a little longer, curious about where this is going. In yet another, you're not watching this at all. You're on a beach, or at work, or somewhere you can't even name. Each choice you make branches outward like a tree, and each branch holds a version of you shaped by slightly different winds. This isn't just science fiction, though it does make for wonderful stories. It's an idea that lives at the curious intersection of quantum physics, cosmology, and imagination. Some scientists believe it's not only possible, but perhaps even necessary. But why would scientists, of all people, often seen as the guardians of logic and clarity, entertain such a mind-bending idea? Well, sometimes science doesn't set out to be strange. It just follows the evidence, and the evidence leads to strange places. It leads to a world where a particle can be in many places at once until you look, where reality seems to hesitate, holding its breath between possibilities. The multiverse is one way to make sense of that hesitation. It suggests that instead of choosing, reality simply embraces every path. Maybe that sounds dizzying, but it can also be strangely comforting. If every possibility unfolds somewhere, then maybe we're never really trapped by the choices we make. Maybe every version of us gets to try a different path, to follow a different dream. Maybe the lives we let go of still play out in some parallel rhythm, dancing just out of reach. Of course, we can't test this easily. We don't have a telescope that peers into other universes. Not yet, maybe not ever. But the math, the logic, and the quiet elegance of the idea, it calls to something deep in us. The same part of us that wonders who we might have been had we turned left instead of right. Had we said yes, or no, or nothing at all? So as you settle deeper into the quiet of your evening, let the idea unfold softly in your mind, not as something to solve, but as something to sit with, like mist over a field, like a thought slipping away as you begin to fall asleep. Maybe you're not alone in this moment. Maybe somewhere else, another version of you is listening too, just a heartbeat out of sync. Another you, still wondering, still reaching, still dreaming, and maybe that's the secret of the multiverse. Not that it's real in the way bricks and chairs are real, but that it gives us a way to imagine without limits. A way to see ourselves, not as a single line, but as a constellation of maybes. Imagine yourself standing at the edge of a vast ocean, not the kind you see in postcards or travel shows, but something far larger, quieter, and stranger. There is no horizon, no sun to shimmer across the surface, no wind to push the waves, just a soft, endless expanse rippling gently in all directions. Now imagine that scattered across this surface are bubbles, countless and constantly forming, some tiny, others immense, rising into being with barely a sound, then drifting, colliding, or slowly expanding until they vanish from sight. This ocean, in the imagination of some cosmologists, is space itself, and those bubbles are entire universes, each with its own version of reality. Perhaps one of them is ours. This is the idea of eternal inflation, a gentle but radical proposal about how the multiverse might be born. Right after the Big Bang, our universe went through a phase of extraordinarily rapid growth, a kind of runaway stretching called cosmic inflation. In less than the blink of an eye, space itself expanded faster than the speed of light, smoothing out its wrinkles and setting the stage for everything we know. But here's the twist. In some versions of this theory, the expansion never completely stops. It might slow down here and there in pockets, giving birth to local universes like ours, but the larger process, the stretching, the bubbling, the foaming of space continues eternally elsewhere. That means while our universe cooled and settled, other regions of this cosmic ocean kept expanding, kept forming new bubbles, each one a brand new universe disconnected from ours, sealed off by vast inflating distances. According to this view, universes are not rare. They're inevitable, a natural, ongoing feature of the greater cosmic landscape. Each of these bubble universes could be profoundly different. Some may have more dimensions or fewer. Some may have gravity that's stronger or weaker. Some might not support atoms at all. In our bubble, the sky looks blue, light travels at a certain speed, and electrons dance in tidy orbits. But somewhere else, light might behave more like a liquid, or never form at all. It's hard to picture. We are creatures evolved to survive on a single planet, orbiting a single sun. Our minds aren't built to handle infinities, and yet the more we learn, the more it seems that infinity might be the backdrop to everything. To make this a bit more approachable, imagine you're baking bread and the dough is rising. As it expands, little pockets of air form inside. If you could shrink down and step inside one of these bubbles, you'd experience your own enclosed world, unaware that just a few millimeters away, another pocket is growing with its own shape. Now stretch this idea across cosmic scales, and you have something resembling the eternal inflation model. You, in your pocket of reality, can't see the others, but they're there, separated not by walls but by expanding space itself. And just as you can't move from one bubble of bread to another without breaking the structure, we can't easily visit other universes. The inflating space between them stretches so rapidly that it outruns any possible signal. If you tried to go there, you'd be chasing something that retreats faster than you could ever catch. Still, the idea lingers gently, a background hum in the minds of those who study the deepest architecture of reality. If our universe is just one bubble in a cosmic foam, then everything we observe may be just a local condition, a regional dialect spoken by this corner of the multiverse. Some physicists wonder whether this might explain the fine-tuned features of our world, the fact that gravity is just strong enough, that the charge of the electron is just right, that the expansion rate of the universe is perfectly balanced for stars and planets to emerge. It's as if the universe was delicately made to be habitable. Or perhaps, say proponents of eternal inflation, it's not that this universe is special, it's that there are so many universes, such a vast and varied collection, that some of them were bound to get the recipe right. We're here not because the universe is fine-tuned for us, but because in this one life can ask questions, and so we ask. As you rest tonight and your breath softens, let yourself imagine this cosmic sea bubbling gently, endlessly beyond the reach of light or sound. Picture the foam of newborn universes rising slowly in the dark, each one trying its hand at existence. Somewhere out there, perhaps, is a universe where you never stopped painting, one where dinosaurs still roam, one where time flows backward, one where stars sing. Not because it must be so, but because in an infinite canvas, perhaps every colour finds a place to shine. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing at a crossroads, not a busy intersection, but something quieter, a place where the road behind you gently dissolves into mist, and before you lie two winding paths. You stand still, weighing one choice against another. Maybe you move left, maybe you don't. But now imagine that you did both, that you followed one road in one world and the other in a different one. You didn't decide between them, you simply split. Two versions of you, each walking a different future, unaware of each other, but equally real. This is the heart of the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics. It proposes that every time a quantum event can go more than one way, it does. The universe doesn't choose a single outcome, it branches. At the smallest scales, particles behave in ways that defy our everyday understanding. An electron, for instance, exists in a cloud of probabilities, a blur of potential positions, until something forces it to settle. This is superposition. But the many worlds interpretation, first proposed by Hugh Everett, offers a wild alternative. The particle doesn't collapse into one state. Reality itself divides. In one universe it lands here, in another it lands there. Both outcomes unfold, not in competition, but in parallel. Extend this beyond particles, and you reach something far more personal. If your thoughts and choices are shaped by quantum events, then you too may branch. In one world you say yes, in another no, and all of them are real, each path leading to a different future with a different you. Now this isn't something you'd notice. You wouldn't feel the split. The branching is seamless, invisible, woven into the fabric of the quantum world. From your perspective, only one outcome plays out. But behind the scenes, reality is not choosing, it's multiplying. To illustrate this in a gentler way, imagine a vast library. Each book on its shelves is a version of your life, a different draft, a different title. You live inside one volume, turning its pages one at a time, but on those quiet, high shelves, the others remain, full of the chapters you didn't write, the lives you didn't live, not erased, not lost, just unread, yet still real. The many worlds interpretation doesn't require magic. It follows the laws of physics logically, without the need for collapsing wave functions. It treats the universe as a grand quantum system evolving smoothly. But because we are observers within the system, we experience the world as if choices are made. We only see one thread at a time, and yet, perhaps we sense the others in dreams, in moments of déjà vu, in that feeling that we've already been here. Perhaps it's just imagination, or perhaps in some subtle way. The other branches whisper across the divide. Some physicists dismiss this interpretation. It's elegant, yes, but untestable, at least for now. If these parallel universes exist, they don't interact with ours. They're like ghost ships sailing on parallel seas. We are passengers on just one of them, staring out into the fog, and yet the idea lingers, not because it gives us control, but because it offers possibility. The multiverse reminds us that the story could always unfold differently, that every what-if isn't just a question, it might be a place. What would it mean to live like that were true? To walk through your day knowing that every moment branches, not as a burden, but as a kind of grace, that each version of you gets to try, that no choice is wasted, no path truly closed. Maybe in another universe you never left your hometown, or you moved across the world. Maybe you became a teacher or a dancer. Maybe your greatest fear in this life is your greatest joy in another. Maybe you're already living the version someone else only dreams of. It's not something we can prove, but it's something we can feel, not as a scientific conclusion, but as a poetic truth. So tonight, as you drift towards sleep, think not just of the day you lived, but of the many versions that might have been. The roads not taken, the words not spoken, the lives you didn't live but somewhere. Maybe you did. You're not just a single thread. You're a tapestry. And the universe, perhaps, is still weaving. Picture the universe as a vast stretched sheet, an enormous fabric laid out under a sky you can't quite see. That fabric is space itself, And though it may look smooth from far away, if you lean in closer, you'll notice it bends. It sags gently around heavy things like stars and planets. This bending is what we feel as gravity. Now imagine taking that sheet and folding it, not in a rough, crumpled way, but with care. 2 points, once far apart, are suddenly close, and then imagine drawing a tunnel from one point to the other, bypassing the stretch in between. That tunnel, if it could exist, is what physicists call a wormhole. Wormholes are not just the stuff of science fiction. They're genuine solutions to Einstein's equations of general relativity, mathematical possibilities tucked deep within the way space-time is shaped. The name itself comes from a simple image: a worm crawling across an apple. It could travel all the way around, or it could burrow straight through. A shortcut through the inside. A wormhole could connect two regions of space that are far apart, not by shrinking the distance, but by creating a new kind of passage outside the normal fabric. Of course, the reality is more delicate. Wormholes, if they exist, would likely require something strange to keep them open. Exotic matter with negative energy, capable of resisting the tunnel's natural urge to pinch shut. We've never seen such matter, but the equations allow for it. Some theories suggest that microscopic wormholes could pop in and out of existence constantly at quantum scales. Others propose that a massive wormhole might exist near a black hole. No one has observed a wormhole. They remain mathematical shadows, elegant but unseen. Still, the idea is compelling because it offers a possibility we rarely consider. That distance, as we know it, might be something we can bend. And it raises a quiet question. What else might we bend? In some solutions, wormholes don't just connect places, they might connect times. A traveller who enters one end might emerge not only somewhere else but somewhere else. The future, the past. This is where things become tangled. Because time in relativity is not separate from space. It's part of the same structure, a single woven fabric called space-time. And just as we can fold space, in theory, we can fold time. A wormhole could be a bridge not just through galaxies, but through eras. It's difficult to know how seriously to take such possibilities. They live on the edge of known physics. But they are born from the same equations that describe the orbits of planets and the bending of starlight. Perhaps the most fascinating thing about wormholes isn't their potential as cosmic doorways, but what they tell us about the universe. That space is not fixed, that shortcuts could exist hiding in the folds. For now, they remain hypothetical. We have no technology to create one, no method to hold one open. But then again, many things in physics began that way. Black holes were once just mathematical curiosities. Gravitational waves were once considered nearly impossible to detect. Maybe one day a whisper in the dark will become a door. Until then, the idea lives in thought experiments and in quiet wonder. We walk through our days assuming that here and there are separated by space. But what if that's not always true? What if, folded in the structure of the cosmos, there are bridges waiting to be found? Thin threads strung between the stars, humming softly with possibility. As you lie there, drifting deeper, imagine that thread, not loud or glowing, but silent and hidden. A space bridge gently sleeping between two corners of reality. Maybe it stretches from one galaxy to another. Maybe it links your bedroom to a point in deep space. Maybe it's just a metaphor, a path the mind can walk, even if the body cannot. Tonight you don't have to travel, you can simply rest, knowing that somewhere in the equations of the universe, shortcuts are allowed. And that's enough. It begins like a whisper, a moment you've lived before. Or at least it feels that way. You're sipping tea in a cafe, or stepping through a doorway, and suddenly you pause. A strange stillness wraps itself around the moment. A thought stirs. I've been here. But you haven't. Still it lingers. Familiarity without a source. This is déjà vu, a French phrase meaning already seen. It's a sensation, fleeting and uncanny, that a moment you are currently experiencing has somehow already occurred. From the perspective of neuroscience, déjà vu is often explained as a kind of memory hiccup. Our minds are constantly encoding information. Usually new experiences are stored as fresh, and familiar ones are tagged accordingly. But occasionally the sorting process stumbles. A current experience is mistakenly routed through memory circuits, making it feel like something we've already stored. It's as if your brain quietly nudges you and says, "You've done this before," when you haven't. Some researchers believe it's a miscommunication between short-term and long-term memory systems. Others suggest a slight delay between the hemispheres of the brain. All of these explanations have merit, but none of them quite capture the experience itself, the strange clarity, the weight of the moment, the eerie stillness. It's more than a technical misfire, it's an emotional echo. And that's where speculation begins. Some have wondered if déjà vu might be more than a brain glitch, if it might be a kind of bleed-through, a gentle overlap between timelines. Perhaps in a universe where many versions of you exist, occasionally those versions resonate. A moment that one you has already lived finds its way somehow into your present, not as a full memory, but as a trace, a ripple. Of course, this is not something we can test. There is no instrument that can detect a leak in the fabric between realities. But that doesn't make the idea any less evocative. There's something comforting in the thought that we are not entirely bound to a single path, that our lives may contain gentle shadows of the choices we didn't make. Imagine that each time you experience déjà vu, it's not an error but a harmony. Two versions of you moving almost in sync, passing through similar spaces, their footsteps overlapping for a single instant, a kind of resonance across the multiverse. Not long enough to see each other, just long enough to feel that quiet click. Some people experience déjà vu only once or twice in their lives. Others feel it often. Science, cautious and methodical, tends to avoid multiverse explanations. It seeks answers that can be measured. But human experience is not always so tidy. And so, in the quiet space where measurement falters, imagination steps in. You might also consider dreams. How often do we dream of places we've never been, yet wake with the feeling that something was remembered, not invented? Could dreams and déjà vu be connected? A kind of subconscious mapping of paths not taken? Some philosophers have even suggested that déjà vu might be tied to reincarnation or to inherited memory. Others view it as a spiritual nudge, a reminder that life is larger than it appears. Perhaps the truth is simpler, or perhaps it's more complex than we will ever know. What matters is how déjà vu makes us feel. It interrupts the normal flow of time. It asks us to stop, to notice, to wonder. It reminds us that even in the most ordinary moments there is room for mystery. So tonight, if you find yourself lying in the dark and recalling a moment that feels like it's happened before, let the sensation wash over you. Don't chase it. Don't try to explain it away. Just let it be what it is. A flicker across the surface of your story, a gentle crossing of timelines, a quiet echo from a life just out of reach. And if tomorrow you walk into a room and feel that strange pulse of familiarity rise again, smile softly. You've been here, and also you haven't. You think back to a moment in your life when you stood at a crossroads. Maybe it was a decision so small you barely noticed it at the time, turning left instead of right, saying yes instead of no, answering a phone call or not answering. We carry these moments with us, usually without realizing just how many tiny branches grow from them. But if the multiverse exists, if every possible outcome plays out somewhere, then somewhere out there is another version of you who chose differently, someone who stepped onto a slightly different path and walked a life that looks both familiar and strange. In some realities, that other you might be almost indistinguishable, just a different haircut, a different favourite song. In others, the differences might be profound. A career you never pursued, a love you never found or never lost, a city you never moved to, a risk you never took. And because the possibilities are infinite, the variations are endless. There could be versions of you who are musicians, teachers, explorers, quiet poets living by the sea. Others who never left their hometown, who made peace with things you're still wrestling with. Some who never made it past a difficult day. Some who soared beyond what you ever dreamed. It's a strange thought, comforting and a little bittersweet to imagine that every version of you is out there, living a life that is just as real, just as full of feeling and memory and wonder as your own. You're not a single point, you're a constellation. Some physicists suggest that if the multiverse is real, you're constantly branching. Each moment of choice or chance spins out new realities, and yet, despite this infinite branching, your experience remains grounded here, on this path. So, what would it mean to meet another version of yourself? Not metaphorically, but really. Would you recognize yourself? Would it be like looking in a mirror, or meeting a stranger who knows all your secrets? Would there be instant empathy or deep discomfort? Philosophers have long pondered the nature of identity. If you lived a different life, would you still be you? Is your essence fixed, or is it shaped moment by moment? In this way, alternate versions of you aren't just curiosities, they're reflections, mirrors that let you explore the boundaries of who you are, and maybe that's the deeper invitation of the multiverse, not to escape this life for another, but to understand that within you are many possibilities, that you contain echoes of those other lives, that the feelings you can't explain, the sudden longing for a place you've never been, might be quiet reminders that you're more layered than you imagined. Sometimes, when we're hard on ourselves, when regret clings like fog, we imagine a better version of who we could have been, someone who didn't make that mistake, someone braver, kinder. But maybe those better versions don't exist to shame us. They exist to inspire us, to remind us that change is always possible, that the other you is still you, and the version of you that someone else longs to be, that's you too. If the multiverse holds infinite versions of you, then it also holds infinite chances. While you may not be able to leap across dimensions, you can choose here, now, and you can carry the strength of those imagined paths forward into the present. You can live as though you already contain their wisdom, their courage, their calm. Because in a way you do, and perhaps on some quiet night, in a distant corner of the multiverse, another version of you is lying awake, wondering what it would have been like to be you, to have your joys, your scars, your memories. Maybe they envy you. Maybe they admire you. Maybe they're just grateful you exist. So tonight, let yourself rest in that idea. You're not just one story. You are many. You're not alone, not in the cosmic sense and not even within yourself. You're a chorus of possibilities still unfolding, a soft flicker of light in a vast sky, singing quietly, endlessly into the dark. And somewhere out there, the rest of you are listening. If our universe is but one thread in a vast and tangled tapestry, then each neighbouring thread may carry its own rules. Gravity may pull stronger, light may travel slower, atoms might bind in unfamiliar ways. And if life exists there, it too must take forms we can hardly imagine. We tend to picture alien life as variations on a theme, but what if the constants that guide our chemistry were just slightly different? In our universe, these values are exquisitely tuned for stable atoms, molecules, stars, and planets. Tweak them slightly, and carbon might never form, water might never exist. But in other universes where the tuning still allows for complexity, perhaps life emerges not despite those changes, but because of them. Imagine a world where electromagnetic forces are much stronger, so that atoms cling tightly, but time flows sluggishly. Life there might be slow, glacial, its thoughts stretching like vines across eons. Or imagine a universe where gravity is so weak that planets form as gentle clouds and life drifts freely in vast luminous orbs, beings made not of cells but of magnetized plasma, humming and pulsing across light years like intelligent auroras. On Earth, we already know that life can be remarkably strange. Deep in the ocean, creatures glow with their own light, surviving on chemical heat. In the cracks of radioactive rocks, bacteria feed on the decay of uranium. Tardigrades, tiny bear-shaped animals, can survive in the vacuum of space, boil in hot springs, and return to life after decades of stillness. They are reminders that life, once born, is stubborn. So if that's true here, what might it mean for universes where the building blocks are entirely different? Where matter is crystalline, not carbon-based? Where life doesn't move through space but through charge? Where intelligence is not housed in brains but in shifting fields of energy? We might picture beings that are not born but condensed, that do not age but vibrate through states, that communicate through pressure waves and quantum foam. It sounds like science fiction, but it's gentle speculation grounded in one key truth. The laws of nature define what life can be. Change the laws, and life must change with them. Some have wondered whether consciousness itself could emerge in forms far removed from the biological. Could an entire ocean, circulating with layered temperature gradients, host thought? Could a planet-wide crystal network conduct awareness? Could stars themselves, burning for billions of years, form structures complex enough to sense and wonder? In some visions of the multiverse, entire realities exist where time is not linear, where beings experience all their moments at once, like pages in a book they can read simultaneously. What would it mean to meet such a creature? Not something you could point to, but a presence that sees your whole life as a single story. What would communication even mean then? When we imagine these things, not to frighten ourselves, but to stretch our thinking, we expand the meaning of life itself. It becomes not a list of biological traits, but a pattern of emergence, a blossoming of complexity into something aware. And maybe, just maybe, some of those beings have wondered about us too. Not because we are special, but because across the fabric of existence there may be a shared curiosity. Perhaps across these countless universes, whenever complexity becomes awareness, it leans ever so slightly toward the unknown, toward the possibility of another. So tonight, as you rest, think of the life that may drift in the spaces between stars, not in ships, but in shapes beyond our understanding. Life that doesn't look like us, or move like us, or think in our rhythms, but that exists nonetheless, soft, quiet, watching. Not gods, not monsters, just others. In a multiverse, the question isn't whether we're alone, it's which we is asking. Let's begin not with a theory, but a thought. Imagine far into the future a civilization advanced enough to simulate entire worlds, not just video games, but reality so complex, so detailed that the people inside them believe themselves to be real. These simulated beings feel joy and fear, build cities, fall in love, write poetry. They look up at their stars and wonder, just like we do. Now ask yourself, if such simulations were possible, how many would exist? And more pressingly, how would the beings inside one know they were simulated? This is the question posed by philosopher Nick Bostrom in what's now called the simulation hypothesis. He offers a trilemma, 3 possibilities. The first, no civilization ever reaches a level advanced enough to create such simulations. The second, they do, but choose never to simulate their ancestors. The third, and most startling, they do reach that level, and they do run such simulations. And if so, the number of simulated minds may vastly outnumber biological ones. Meaning, statistically, it's more likely we are simulated than not. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's a philosophical possibility. A way of asking what it means to exist when our senses can be fooled and our physics might be a program. And the curious thing is, physics sometimes behaves as though it's running on code. Our universe is not analog all the way down. At the smallest scales, space and time appear to be quantized, coming in discrete units, like pixels on a vast cosmic screen. Light, matter, even the fabric of space-time itself seem to operate in finite steps. Some physicists have begun to wonder, what if the universe is fundamentally made not of particles or energy, but of information? That everything we see is just the visible surface of an underlying sea of bits, woven into the architecture of reality. In such a view, atoms are not solid things, but arrangements of information. Space is a structure, time is a clock cycle, and consciousness, what you're doing right now, is a process running within a grand simulation. Of course, this doesn't mean that reality isn't real. It simply means that real may be defined not by what something is made of, but by how it behaves. After all, we already build worlds ourselves. Every video game, every virtual model, every imagined story is a kind of simulation. We're just beginning. So who's to say that someone, somewhere, somewhen didn't begin much earlier? And if we are inside such a world, what would it mean? Would it make our lives less meaningful, or would it add another layer of wonder? If this is a simulation, then the stars were placed with care. The constants of nature, so finely tuned, were chosen. The beauty of a sunrise, the rhythm of music, the taste of warmth on a winter day, all still yours, still real. In fact, the idea that we might be simulated invites a strange kind of intimacy. Someone or something designed this place, maybe not for you specifically, but with the possibility of you in mind. And maybe that's all any of us ever want, to feel that we were not entirely random, that our lives are patterns, that our joy and our pain ripple out into something larger, something that listens. So tonight, consider the possibility, not as a fear, but as a curiosity, that the universe might be a kind of song, a program, a dream running on a machine more ancient than stars. And in that dream, you are here, wondering, breathing, alive. That's more than enough. Close your eyes for a moment and let your thoughts drift. just as they do when sleep begins to arrive, gently, like mist pooling at the edge of a still lake. You feel your body soften, the world grows quiet. Somewhere beneath the chatter of consciousness, another kind of awareness begins to stir. Not logical, not linear, but vivid, shifting, deeply familiar yet entirely strange. You are dreaming, and within that dream, time folds, space melts. You might find yourself walking through a childhood home, only to open a door and step into a city you've never seen. A long-lost friend appears beside you, unchanged. Words are spoken without sound. Emotions take on shape and colour. The laws of physics vanish, but meaning remains. We often treat dreams as shadows, as echoes of waking life. But what if dreams are more than byproducts? What if they are bridges? Lucid dreamers, those who become aware within the dream itself, tell stories of flying, of bending gravity, of stepping through shimmering doors that lead to entire worlds. Some call this lucid dreaming, others speak of astral projection. Science, of course, approaches these phenomena with caution. The brain is astonishingly powerful. It can simulate entire environments. But even within that framework, the experience itself remains mysterious. Why do certain dreams feel so much more real than waking life? Why do we sometimes wake with the feeling that we've returned not from a fiction, but from somewhere else? Some cultures have long believed that the dream world is not less real, but more. That what we call the physical realm is just one layer, and sleep is how we touch the others. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia speak of dream time, a sacred space where ancestors walk. In Tibetan Buddhism, dream yoga is practiced to understand the nature of reality itself. These aren't just metaphors, they're maps, and perhaps in the context of a multiverse they become even more intriguing. If consciousness is not confined to the body, and if realities beyond this one exist, then dreams may be more than personal theatres. They may be windows, portals not of space but of self, a moment where the simulation loosens, where the rules soften, and where we wander freely between branches of what could have been. Have you ever had a dream so vivid that waking felt like forgetting? Or dreamed of a place so detailed you were sure it must exist somewhere? Maybe these are just tricks of the brain, or maybe they're crossings, small safe ways for the mind to explore adjacent timelines, neighbouring realities, echoes of what might have happened if one choice had turned slightly to the left. And perhaps, most curiously, these dream portals don't always open in sleep. Sometimes they arrive in the middle of the day. You're walking to the kitchen and suddenly forget where you were going. You stare out the window and feel yourself drifting, just being elsewhere for a heartbeat. You return, but something in you has shifted. Maybe the world is built to allow these little moments. Maybe consciousness, when untethered from routine, reaches out like a vine, feeling along the edges of what is permitted. Whatever they are, dreams carry weight. Not because they are predictive, but because they are yours, formed by your thoughts, your fears, your memory, and maybe, just maybe, by your other selves reaching back across the veil to say, I remember you. Tonight, as you fall asleep, try not to rush. Linger in the moment when your mind begins to shift, that soft space where time thins. Let it carry you, not with expectation, but with openness. The world behind your eyelids may be stitched from your own mind, but it may also carry the texture of elsewhere. Walk slowly through it. Speak kindly to those you meet. And when you return, don't try too hard to explain. Just remember that for a time, you walked through a portal no one else could see, and you brought something back. You've walked with us now through many worlds, across theories and thresholds, across dreams and dimensions, across the strange edges of what might be. We've looked up at a sky that may not be the only one. We've drifted through portals, met alternate versions of ourselves, and wondered quietly what it means to be real. And now we are here, not at the end, but at a place of stillness, a moment to rest. Because even in a universe of infinite variations, there is still this, you, right now, listening, breathing, wondering. Not as a theory, but as a presence. And that presence is enough. Let's think one more time about the self. Not the name or the voice in your head, but the awareness behind it. The part of you that has watched silently through all the moments. The you that remembers the weight of a friend's hug, the feel of grass on bare feet, the hush that falls before the first snowfall. The you that was there, before words arrived and will remain when they fall away. Now imagine that this self, the quiet core of who you are, doesn't exist in just one place. Imagine it's stretched across realities like light filtered through glass. In one world, you took the leap. In another, you held back. And in all of them, that same observing self is there, softly witnessing. It's not a matter of belief or physics, it's a feeling, a possibility, a poetic truth. Because if time is not as linear as it seems, if every moment contains the seeds of many others, then perhaps you are already everywhere you might be, already unfolding in every possible direction, already whole, even in your becoming. You are the child and the elder, the question and the answer, the singer and the silence. And if the universe is a story, a slow, vast, unfinished story, then you're both its reader and its page. Not its hero, not its villain. Just one quiet voice in a chorus of stars humming softly into the dark. That's the truth so many stories forget. That meaning isn't in victory or certainty. It's in presence. It's in staying with the question. It's in noticing the way light falls through a window. It's in forgiving yourself, in holding space for wonder. If the multiverse is real, and you exist in 1,000 variations, then none of them are alone. They're part of the same thread, the same fabric, the same song. And maybe, just maybe, some part of you already knows this in dreams, in déjà vu, in that strange, unplaceable feeling that you've done this before. Not here, maybe, but somewhere. As if your soul remembers something your mind has never learned. So tonight, allow yourself to drift. Not in haste, not in worry, but in quiet trust. Knowing you're not falling, only floating. The universe is carrying you like a calm current that remembers every path home. Through possibilities, through starlit doors, through the hush between thoughts. And if you dream, let it be of somewhere softly unfamiliar. A place with 2 suns warming the horizon. A version of you who speaks without fear. A moment that feels like remembering something not yet lived. Because wherever you are in this world or another, awake or almost asleep, you're already woven into something vast, something that listens and lingers and loves. So rest now, traveller of thoughts and timelines. You've wandered far. You've asked the sky for meaning, and the silence has answered in its own way. There's nothing more to reach for. Just breathe. You're already exactly where you need to be.